Well, hello there. This is Jamie J, and I am the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Virtual Assistants. And today we're going to be speaking with Brian Miller, the CEO of Easy China Warehouse, all the way from the wonderful land across the pond there in China. And we will be back to start this conversation in about 38 seconds. Hello and welcome to Bottleneck Virtual Assistants live with Bottleneck. My name is Jamie J, and I'm the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Virtual Assistants. Today we're going to be talking with the one and only Brian Miller. Now, Brian Miller, we're going to be talking about the coronavirus effects on the economy, supply chain, e-commerce, and what we have seen happen in China. This is kind of unique because I haven't really spent too much time talking about what's happening in other parts of the world. So this will be very interesting. For those of you that don't know Brian Miller, he's the CEO of Easy China Warehouse. And Brian has been living in China for the past 10 years. He previously worked for one of the largest Chinese government-owned manufacturers managing their North American export operations. And now he runs a third-party logistics warehouse in Shenzhen, China called EasyChinaWarehouse.com. The company provides third-party logistics and shipping for Amazon FBA sellers and any e-commerce company creating products in China. Previous to Easy China Warehouse, he founded an e-commerce company that sells Bluetooth speakers. So without any further ado, please allow me to introduce you to Mr. Brian Miller. How are you, sir?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for being here. This is interesting because this is an area I'm not too familiar with. So I'm pretty excited not only to learn about it, but also to share it. So I wonder if maybe you could tell us a little bit about who you are, other than your background, and maybe a little bit of background on you. And yeah, we'll get into a great conversation.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Brian Miller. I'm originally from Connecticut in the U.S. And so I grew up and am a Yukon Husky, if there's any Huskies out there. But I've spent the last 10 years in China, and I've worked in both manufacturing and logistics, and I've started my own company to help e-commerce companies take their products from manufacturers in China and ship them to their customers all around the world. So that's kind of like a little short intro of who I am.
Fantastic. Well, Brian, so I'm not very familiar with the whole industry out there, but for those of us that would be listening to this, what's the benefit? Like, what working with you, what's their benefit? Obviously shipping and stuff, but who are these types of people that you're talking with?
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of companies now, especially with the coronavirus, that need to focus more on selling to consumers online.
Mm-hmm.
And so they either have online shops, whether it be their own store, or you can sell as a third-party seller on Amazon. So actually, what a lot of people don't know is that there's other companies that are selling on the Amazon platform. And we basically helped those companies take their products after they're manufactured in China and help them either ship their products to their end customer anywhere in the world or to Amazon warehouses. So a lot of people can store their products in an Amazon warehouse as a seller, and Amazon will help you ship and fulfill the orders to the end customer. So we basically facilitate the logistics between the factory and either other logistics warehouses or the end customer for e-commerce companies.
Gotcha. So you just basically help people out. So you don't actually help with the manufacturing, just the moving from one place to another.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So most brands have their own kind of design, have their own logo, and they manufacture their own unique products, and they work directly with a manufacturer in China to develop those products and then produce them and then manufacture them. But after they're finished, you basically need to take it from the factory's door to the US or to Europe where you want to distribute it to your customers. And we facilitate that transport, basically.
Oh, that's fantastic. How did you get into this? From being from being a husky?
Yeah, it's a great question. I actually left the U.S. At the other crisis we had, so the financial crisis. I graduated university, and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, nor did I have any job prospects at the time. So I started traveling around the world. So I went to Europe, and then I had a friend actually in Asia, in Taiwan, that told me, "Hey, you have to come out here. The market's super hot and everything's happening in Asia, and you got to come and check it out." And that's what actually brought me to Asia.
Wow.
And once I got to Taiwan, I started studying Chinese, and I eventually moved to Beijing where I studied longer, and then I started getting into manufacturing and eventually e-commerce. So I started an e-commerce company that sells Bluetooth speakers. And I found that it was very hard to take those products from my factory and distribute them to my customers. And so I basically started a company that helped other e-commerce companies fix my problem. So that's kind of how I started.
Fantastic. So this is probably a dumb question. I will maybe ask a lot of them, but
there's no dumb questions ever.
Well, I just think it's a fascinating story. It seems like such a hard language to understand. I would guess that you're fluent in.
I am. Yeah. So I spent 2 years. Yeah, I spent 2 years studying written and writing and also spoken.
Oh, wow. So is it Mandarin that you know?
Yeah,
or
Mandarin. So
Mandarin?
yeah, Mandarin is like the kind of official language of China, but there's a lot of other dialects that are spoken throughout the country. And probably the most famous is a lot of people go to Hong Kong, so Cantonese is spoken in Hong Kong. That's like a dialect of Chinese of Chinese that a lot of people speak, but it's not the official language of China.
Gotcha. Now, can you speak that dialect as well?
I can. I wish. If I were to live there, I think I might study. But I've only like kept to Mandarin just because it's so difficult, and to learn another language I'm not that old, but like at my age, it'd be too hard. So
that's awesome. So many of the dealings you're doing, I imagine, at the manufacturers are done in Mandarin, I would assume. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we have a warehouse in Shenzhen. Shenzhen is the border city to Hong Kong. So Hong Kong, for a lot of people, they know it's in the south of China, and we border that city. So we have a warehouse, and we have employees that work in the warehouse, and most of our kind of supply chain and our suppliers are all Chinese. So we do all of our business in Chinese. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Well, kudos to you. That's fantastic. I can barely say hello in Spanish, so that's an incredibly hard language, from what I understand, to learn. So I think it's fantastic that you're doing that. The title of this is talking about the coronavirus and the effects that it has on the supply chain and things like that. I wonder if maybe you can go into some of the challenges that you've faced with regards to, what has been happening with, as an effect of the coronavirus there in Shenzhen and your operation.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of the world kind of buys their products from China. So it's kind of an important place where we can get an idea of like global demand throughout the economy. And I guess I can kind of bring it back to when it kind of started, or when people knew about it, which was kind of at the end of December. And that was when the Chinese government made an announcement that there was this virus that they found that was unlike any virus before. And starting throughout January in China, it started to spread. And we moved into the end of Chinese New Year, where things slow down historically. And that was kind of the height of the virus spread within China. And so a lot of factories and logistics companies were closed during that time. And so we had a large strain on the supply chain, specifically starting after Chinese New Year. So a lot of people that were trying to buy product from China, most of the factories either had trouble getting labor because of the quarantines throughout the country, or a lot of the rules inhibited a lot of the companies from opening quickly. So we had a very painful kind of start to February. And in March, we started to get production back online in China. And then in April, we saw basically full capacity in production. But at the same time, once we got back to full capacity, we saw like basically a demand shortage from the rest of the world. So as the virus spread throughout the world, economies kind of closed and countries closed, and therefore, there was less economic activity. And so a lot of the factories, even though they're at full capacity, they weren't able to get enough orders to manufacture anything. So we've seen like a supply constraint turn into like a demand constraint over the past few months.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I wonder if this has anything to do with it. Normally, you can go and by the way, Raina does say hello, Brian, watching from the Philippines.
Awesome. Hey.
And if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask away. If you don't make it in time for the live to ask a question, and you have to, or you would like to ask a question of Brian, please leave it in the comments, either on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitter, anywhere that we're going live to, and I'll make sure to get those questions to Brian on your behalf. One of the things that I've noticed is normally there's a 2-day. We have the Amazon Prime, so there's 2-day. We were seeing some of them, this could not be delivered maybe for 21 days. I wonder if that is that part of what happened during this coronavirus?
Yeah. So, I mean, part of it was not specifically, that was more on the Amazon side, but during the virus, a lot of the warehouses, so we saw both in China and in the US, like they were kind of either closed or at lower capacity because there weren't enough people to either be at work or you needed to social distance. And also a lot of the a lot of the logistics companies, because there was such a surge in online purchasing, a lot of the logistics lines around the world were kind of over loaded, right?
Gotcha.
And so we saw lots of delays throughout shipping within the US and shipping globally, actually. So what a lot of people don't know is that 50% of the air freight in the world is put in the back or below a passenger aircraft. So in the bellies of passenger aircraft. And so since so much of the international flights were canceled, you basically had 50% of the air freight capacity taken out of the world. Gotcha. And so this created a huge constraint on logistics globally.
Gotcha. So what are you back to any kind of a what I would like to refer to as a new normal now, or how is it going right now?
Yeah. So I think this is one of my favorite things to talk about specifically because China's response was so different from a lot of countries around the world, and their approach to containing the virus was significantly more strict than most other countries. And so at the moment, we have very low amounts of new cases, and life is generally very, very normal. It's almost back to normal as we knew it before the coronavirus. So I think that's important to note because of the measures that China took. They were able to kind of overcome the spread in the virus much faster than most other countries around the world.
Yeah, it's interesting. Boy, I have so many questions. Have you noticed that there's been an effect on working with and delivering to or dealing with the logistics to the US? Has those relations between the governments affected anything? And I'm trying. I don't want to be political here, but I mean, you see stuff happening where tariffs are added and all this kind of stuff. And I haven't watched the news in 3 years, so I'm not up on that, because every time I watch it, I start crying, or I just get mad or something like that. So I don't watch the news because of the negativity. But I'm wondering if this has affected your business in any way, shape, or form with regards to logistics and your relations with the U.S.
Like, I don't think it's actually, I mean, since we actually serve e-commerce companies for our business, it's actually helped because a lot of people have been home and they've been buying online. So it's been a net positive for our business and for companies that serve e-commerce businesses. But I would say, in regards to your question about relations between the US and China, it's definitely gotten worse. So all throughout the trade war that we saw in the last year or two, we've seen tensions increase over time, and they've gotten worse and worse, right? I think anyone can't deny that. And I think with the coronavirus, that's added to the anxiety and the amount of, let's say, conflict between both countries. So in my opinion, as the virus continues and as the trade war continues, I actually think that the conflict will get worse than better. I think it will actually get much worse than it is now. And it continues to get increasingly worse as we see by month. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's a shame to hear. We have both sides. We have people that will absolutely not buy from China. And then we have other people that, support it because they need the product or the service. Right. And you see the polar effects of this, and a lot of time that causes friction, and it's such a shame because of what's happening at the higher levels that are out of our control. But at the same time, I completely appreciate it, and I appreciate what you do from an entrepreneurial perspective. I think that's fascinating that you've created something out of nothing there. And it's really good to hear that story. What's next for you?
What's next? Well, I mean, for us, we're working on helping e-commerce companies basically distribute their products around the world, and we think with actually the coronavirus, it's accelerated this trend in people purchasing online. So, as we know, as younger people, we've been very accustomed to buying things online, but maybe during the coronavirus, our parents were not very used to it, right? So we're all teaching our parents and our grandparents how to buy stuff online. And I think that will change consumer behavior in the fact that they will have an account now. They will be comfortable with purchasing things online and purchasing things that they've never bought online. So we know a lot of people have started buying things from the supermarket online. And now, okay, once you start doing that, will you stop? Probably not, right? So for us and our company, habits form. So for us and our company, and for e-commerce and for people that run e-commerce companies and that are people, and for people that are interested in getting into selling products, I think e-commerce is a very, let's say, it has a lot of traction, and I think it will, the coronavirus has only actually helped the trend of people buying things more online.
Got it.
So we're gonna continue to invest in supporting these type of companies and creating better shipment solutions to help people that actually need to distribute their products around the world.
Well, this is interesting. So where is it? Is it something they would go to easychinawarehouse.com to learn more about this?
Yeah. So basically, you can go to our website at easychinawarehouse.com. Or you can send us an email at hello@easychinawarehouse.com or me, Brian, at easychinawarehouse.com. That was good. It was on the thing. Yeah. Both are okay. And if anyone has any questions, whether it be about China or about sourcing or about anything that has to do with making products in China, I'd be happy to help out and answer anyone's questions.
That's fantastic. I notice a lot of people that have gotten into this. So it seems like a neat opportunity for those people that are looking for a way to maybe begin a side hustle or start doing something on the side to kind of supplement their income or do something like that. And I've seen a lot of people that are so uber successful on Amazon selling products, bird feeders and whatever it may be. And they're looking for, and you know, what's fun, what's that's a real, one of my friends did that for real. And he had them manufactured and he sold bird feeders. I think it was bird feeders. Yeah. And bird feeders, bird seed. There's all these little niches that people just absolutely, you know, and it's a passion for people. So as far as starting a new opportunity, I'm all about creating opportunity. And I think it's fantastic opportunity for people to learn how to begin a business. So definitely reach out to hello at Easy China Warehouse, or I guess you can do Brian as well, right?
Yep, absolutely, for sure. Yeah, either one's good.
Okay, what is one thing? Okay, well, see, we do get people saying this, like Bruce Colony says, I think sourcing things in America is a much better idea. Now, see, the challenge with this, and then John says, thanks anyways, not buying China anymore. The challenge with this, in my opinion, is that I believe it kind of, I think we need to, because of the internet, because of online communities, our world has shrunk immensely. With Bottleneck, we source from the Philippines, right? The talent pool has increased exponentially because of the internet. And right through your keyboard, you have the ability to access, in this case, Brian Miller, all the way to China. And I'm in Springfield, Missouri. The miracles of technology are amazing. And it allows us to be able to make our way and to do things that have never been possible before. My challenge with those, and I understand people wanting to do stuff here in the US and provide local support to the US. I challenge those in saying that even though I source talent from the Philippines, I am bringing money into my local community. My clients are generating more money, bringing it into their local community. That's going back into, you know, stores and shops, and people are buying cars, and people are doing all of that stuff in the US, even though we're relying on talent outside of the US. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I think overall I agree with that trend. And also, I don't think that, I mean, this might be hard for some people to hear, but like, I don't think if the manufacturing leaves from China, it will go back to the US. It will most likely go to another low cost country. That's just the way this US system is set up. And so we've seen a lot of manufacturing move from China to, let's say textiles specifically, to Vietnam, to Bangladesh. And that's because the cost of labor in China has gotten a bit higher. And so it's not as competitive to do it here. But that manufacturing has definitely not moved back to the US for sure. We all know that. So, and we also need to consider the fact that the supply chain around the world is very globalized. So you make, you know, when you make an iPhone or when you make something very complicated, there are thousands of pieces of components that go into that product. And there are different layers of supply chain that actually build the product that you use. And so the thing about China, specifically, the reason why it's such a strong manufacturing country is that it's built an incredibly powerful supply chain that can build all of those different components that go into that phone. It's not to say that they do every one of them, but they build a large portion of them. Yeah. And so to move all of those layers of supply chain back to the US, not only does it take a lot of time, but it takes a lot of investment, and it takes policies to actually allow for companies to be profitable to do that. And at the moment, there aren't really any incentives for large companies to do that. And so I don't really see anything moving from China to the US, but more China to other low-cost countries.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's a web, you know, it's just a spaghetti bowl. It's so crazy, and it's interesting to think about because I've never really spent much time in this area. But thank you for introducing me and kind of opening up my my brain to learning about this a little bit. It's very interesting, and I hope more people are can learn something about this.
Yeah, for sure. And even maybe to the Philippines or other low cost countries, like just like you might source talent from there. There's a lot of opportunities to also source talent from all different countries around the world as well.
Yep, there really is. There really is. So, Brian, before we wrap, is there anything else you'd like to say before we end up wrapping up this episode?
No, just to if anyone has questions, I'd be happy to help out. And if anyone's interested in manufacturing or shipping from China, please reach out to us, and we'll do whatever we can to help you.
Fantastic. Well, if you'll hold on one quick second, I'll go ahead and wrap up today. Don't leave. I'll just go ahead and wrap up and finish this up here. Let me see if I make sure I get the right things going here. And we'll talk to you in just a second. But hold on one quick second. I'll go ahead and take us home here. All right. Today we have been speaking to Brian Miller, the CEO of Easy China Warehouse, where we talked about the effects that coronavirus has had on the economy, the supply chain, e-commerce, and what we have seen happen in China. Again, if you want to learn anything more about Brian Miller, here's his bio. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to pass it along. You can learn more by visiting easychinawarehouse.com. If you want to reach out to him and get in touch with him, send him an email, hello@easychinawarehouse.com. He's also on LinkedIn. It's /IN/Brian Miller. And we look forward to continuing the conversation. If we should, feel free to give me any comments. I'll pass them along to Brian. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to Live with Bottleneck. We had a blast today having this conversation, and I learned a few things. This is always fantastic. So without any further ado, I'll go ahead and wrap up today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for letting us help stop the bottleneck in your business.